I think it's recorded.
Members of the jury, you have two actions here. You will understand that one action is brought by the woman because she claims she suffered injuries and she asks compensation at your hands. The other action is brought by her husband for the loss of his wife's services, as he claims, from the injuries which she received. Both of these plaintiffs claim that the accident which they claim happened to the woman happened through no fault of hers, but solely through the fault and negligence and carelessness of the defendant company. It is the claim of the plaintiffs that the accident happened on November 7th, 2006, in New York City, that at that time she was a tenant in a tenement house located at the number and on that street, that tenement house was owned and controlled and operated by this defendant corporation. It is the claim of the plaintiffs that both the woman and her husband were tenants on the first floor above the ground floor, or grade floor, as you may call it. The plaintiffs claim that there was a stairway leading from the ground floor or street level up to the place where their apartment was on the first floor above the ground floor. It is the claim of the plaintiffs that this was a tenement house occupied by more than 3 families living there, which is defined as a tenement house and conceded by the pleadings to be a tenement house. It is the claim of the plaintiffs that it was the duty of the landlord to keep these particular stairways or that particular stairway in good repair, and it is the claim of the plaintiffs that instead of the defendants keeping them in good repair, that the second step from the top of the stairs had greatly deteriorated a long time prior to the day of this accident due to the passage of people up and down that particular stairway into their apartments on the first floor above the ground floor and other floors. It is the claim of the plaintiffs that by reason of this constant deterioration of that particular step, the step became worn and thin and shaky, and that a piece had broken off. Witnesses have varied as to the time of the development of this defective condition, which plaintiffs claim, but they have testified that for a period of 2 months or longer, this worn condition had continued for 2 months prior to the time of the accident, and that a piece had broken from the particular step and remained unrepaired for at least that period prior to the accident. And the plaintiffs claim that that was a sufficient time to elapse to give the owner what is known as constructive notice of that defective condition. That is, it is claimed by the plaintiffs that had the defendant exercised proper care in keeping those stairs in repair, they would have discovered the defective condition which the plaintiffs claim prior to the time of the accident. The plaintiffs also claim that in addition to their claim of constructive notice, that this defendant company had actual notice of the condition of that stairway prior to the accident. It is the claim of the plaintiffs that that notice was given to an employee of the defendant. They claim that that person was an employer of the defendant, and therefore knowledge to that person of the defect was knowledge to the defendant corporation. The plaintiffs claim that after that so-called defective condition that the plaintiffs claim had existed for 2 months or longer on that one particular stair, that on this day of November 7th at about noon, she came from her apartment on this first floor above the ground floor with the intention of descending that particular flight of stairs to go out upon the street. It is her claim that she started to descend that stairway, that as she started to descend, she caught hold of the railing, and it is her claim that she caught hold of that railing and started to go down the stairs, that she was proceeding carefully, lawfully, and with due care and caution. It is her claim that notwithstanding the care and caution which she exercised at that particular time, she slipped and fell, and she was precipitated down to the foot of that flight of stairs. It is her claim that by reason of that fall she suffered certain injuries and some bruises which have cleared up. But it is her claim also that among her injuries at that particular time was a dislocation of a part of her left shoulder, one of the bones of her left shoulder, or one of the processes, as has been described here to you, was fractured. It is her claim that by reason of that fracture of the process of the left shoulder, or arm, that she has suffered what has been described as an atrophy of the muscles. The doctors have told you that an atrophy is more or less in the nature of a slight paralysis, if we might use that term, not complete, but the disuse of that particular arm, particularly the disuse of that particular muscle of that arm, caused it to grow stiff, as it were, and limits the motion of the arm when she attempted to put it in different directions. It is her claim that that is a condition which not only existed right after the accident, but that it persisted, and it is her claim that she will always suffer from that limitation of motion, and she asks damages at your hands for the pain and suffering which she claims she has endured in the past, together with the pain and suffering which she believes she will suffer in the future. Now, that in a general way